Hi, this is Zak Mir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here on Share Talk for Monday, the 26th of April. Starting off with Bezant, which looks as though it's breaking through that line of resistance there from back in November at 0.25. But the overall view here is that while we're above the 50-day moving average at 0.22, we're heading up to retest the best levels of the past year around 0.4, 0.5 pence, and that could be seen as soon as the end of next month. On a longer view, 2 to 3 months, maybe up to 0.8, 0.9 pence at that July resistance line projection. But I think most people will be happy with 0.4, 0.5, and hopefully we'll get a decent end of day close in the upper 0.2s, let's say, early this week on Bezant. Moving along to a stock which featured on the Sunday roast yesterday. Good to see the shares doing well today with Martin Churchhouse, CEO there at Caerus Mineral Resources. The view here is that an end-of-day close above the initial resistance that we had for March and April at 15 pence could lead towards the top of that rising trend channel. I guess where that rising trend channel is going to, towards 24 pence as soon as the end of next month. This stage really back below the floor of the channel around 13 pence, really delaying the upside scenario on Caerus Mineral Resources. Copper obviously in focus at the moment, and here we have Castillo Copper, or as the Spanish might say, Castillo Copper. Here we've had the gap higher after a bear trap gap reversal actually at the turn of the month. That was through the 2.5 pence area, and while we're above 2.5 pence, looking for as high as 5 pence over the next month or two, maybe by the end of June. Hopefully we'll see a repeat of the bear trap gap reversal that we had at the end of December, which doubled the share price, or more than doubled the share price at that time. On to the next situation, which is Escape Hunt, clearly a play on the pandemic ending. And here you can see that the shares have already anticipated the pandemic ending for quite a long time. We've got a situation where we're heading towards the initial target around the 52, 53, well actually 55 pence level over the next couple of weeks. But if you assume that this trend channel is rather steeper than the old one that I've drawn, you could actually get a target here as high as 70 pence at the rising trend channel from October. And that's valid while we hold above the 20-day line and recent support around 36 pence. So above 36 pence, going for 55 pence initially, and then up to 70 pence by the end of June for Escape Hunt. Stock which hasn't been here for quite a while, but maybe back in business now, is Ethernity Networks. Here we've actually hit the initial target that we had, which I'd actually forgotten about, at 57 pence there, the high today 58 pence. But it looks as though the shares might again steepen their ascent, a bit like Escape Hunt, and go for a higher target. That would be towards the 90 pence area, which is the top of a rising trend channel from October as well. 90 pence valid while we hold above 40 pence, and that could be seen by the end of June. If you're cautious on the shares, maybe wait for an end of day close above that broken May resistance line from last year at 58 pence before assuming 90 pence is on its way. But ideally we will remain above the initial April peak, which is at 45, ahead of a fresh move to the upside. Gold has not been the flavor of the month or the last couple of months, but maybe it is back in favor now. Here we've got another stock which has hit an initial target. That was around 25 pence for Galantas Gold at the October resistance line. End of day close above 35 pence could take us up to 37 pence, and that May resistance line projection from last year. Upside valid while we hold above last month's peak at 21 pence. So above 21, looking for 37 via 25 pence on Galantas Gold. Covered Galileo Resources over the weekend, but given that it's gone up again, might be worth having another look at a rather stronger break of the 50-day moving average that we've got today, 1.53. While we're above that, looking for a retest of January resistance through 2.5. If you are waiting for a final signal for the upside, then that would be an end-of-day close through 1.7 pence, which was the initial April resistance. Hopefully we'll get that early this week. And the upside valid while we hold above 1.5 pence, i.e. the 50-day moving average. A stock which has bounced rather high today is Jaywing. Good to see that on its way today. And here we've had a situation where it's been a slow build-up until today, but looking towards the top of that rising trend channel from September 2019 at 25 pence. That's valid while we hold above the last March peak at 11.5 pence, so above 11.5. Looking for 25 pence, possibly as soon as the end of next month. So let's see if Jaywing can start accelerating. Great progression there, sort of saucer reversal that we've had, very slow, but starting to accelerate today in a sort of pleasant way, let's say. Next stock is one that I haven't looked at for a while, Polarean Imaging. Here we've had an extended consolidation since October. That looks like it's about to end in a positive way, so breaking a line of resistance at 75 pence. An end of day close through 75 pence should be enough to get the next leg for the stock on its way, and we'll hit the top, or we could hit the top of the rising trend channel from back in January 2020 by the end of June at the current rate of progression. Upside valid while we hold above the floor of the channel and the 50-day moving average at 67 pence. Stock which did very well on the gap front, or i.e. is a gap signal. Here we had PetroNeft back in January. It was down at sort of 0.5, 0.6. There was a gap through resistance, and we've kept flying ever since, so with a few hiccups perhaps, but another gap higher today, and an end of day close through the initial April peak at 3.08 pence could be enough to give the shares a fresh leg to the upside, up towards 4.3 pence by the end of next month. Upside valid while we hold above the 50-day moving average at 2.33 pence. You could tighten that up to the floor of the gap of 2.6 if you don't want to risk that much. On to Pantheon, which gave the bulls a bit of a shock, I think, in the last week or two. Starting to consolidate well here. Probably we're still looking for an end of day close above the bottom of the gap at 30 there, the floor of the gap. So an end of day close above 30 is required really to get the shares up towards, filling the gap up towards 37, 38 pence over the next few weeks. Stop loss probably back below the low of the other of last week there at 22 pence. So above 22, looking for 38 to 40 pence. But an end of day close would be a decent signal there, a momentum signal for those who are still slightly cautious on that situation. Stock which has an impressive setup, to say the least, is Reabold Resources. The reason for saying that is that we had an island bear trap reversal in November, December. We've held the top of that gap at what was that, around 0.5 pence, 0.52 pence rather. Current situation is that we bounced off the 50-day line, and while we're above the 50-day line at 0.62, looking towards that resistance line there from last year as high as a penny, and that could be seen by the end of June. Just a couple of situations to go now. First one, Sareum. Here we've got a situation where nice progress here, bouncing above the 50-day moving average after a key reversal to the upside at the end of last week. Want to see an end of day close through the initial April peak. That's at 2.4 pence. If we can get that early this week, then we could be heading towards 3.5 pence, which is the top of that wide rising trend channel from back in October. Time frame on that by the end of June. Only back below the 50-day line at 1.84, really delaying the upside scenario. Always good to see a stock which is sort of flying in the face of the bears. At the moment, that comes in the form of Tern. Lots of stone throws here, but we've had a decent break, a sort of slow break of March resistance at 13 pence. The longer we stay above that on an end-of-day close basis, the greater the chance of finally getting our move towards 20 pence, which has been promised for quite a long time. I think it's probably been promised here for at least a year or a year and a half. So maybe finally going to get that move towards 20 pence for Tern over the next few weeks. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.